this negative makes. All right, you guys, last one. I'm going to just really briefly touch on this. I think this is really important, so I want you guys to see it. Now we've done graphing quadratics, we've done transformations, we've done factoring. Now we're going to solve the factoring, because up until now we haven't seen an equal sign. And I was talking to you guys about how when there is an equal sign and you've got a quadratic formula, for an example, x equals y like this, the y you want to say is equal to 0. And the reason is, if you can remember when we talked about the vocabulary, because when y equals 0, that is where we have our solutions.
Formula.
So if I was to look at these equations, right, our zeros, our solutions. And so now we're actually going to solve. We're solving. So we're looking for what are those solutions, okay? So in many cases we can find the solutions of a quadratic equation by factoring rather than graphing, because up until now the only way we know how to find the solutions is looking at a graph and where those cross the x-intercept, right? Right now, the only way we know how to find the solutions is graphing it and saying, okay, there's one and there's one. Now we're going to actually factor and not have to graph. So, the first thing you do is you set this equal to 0. It's currently equal to y. Y can equal 0. So we're saying, what is our x values when x is equal to 0? So, if y equals 0, x squared plus 3x minus 10. Now we're going to factor. Okay, and I told you guys that when you guys have these, when you have trinomials, what I like to do first is I like to use that big X. And I put my A times my C in the top, my B in the bottom, and then the numbers that multiply to get me A and C goes on either side and adds to give me B. So I'm looking at this and I see that my A equals 1, my B equals 3, my C equals negative 10. So A times C, 1 times C is going to give me negative 10. B is going to be 3. So what two numbers? Well, first I need to figure out what are my what factors to give me 10. 1 times 10, 2 times 5, and that's it. 5 times 2 and 10 times 1. So which of these are going to add to give me negative 10? Well, I know that if I multiply a positive times a positive, I'm going to get a positive number, not a negative number. So I'm thinking one of these has to be negative. So 1 times 10 multiplies to give me negative 10. Negative 1 times positive 10 multiplies to give me negative 10, but will only add to give me positive 9. Negative 2 times 5 is going to multiply to give me negative 10, and negative 2 plus 5 will give me positive 3. And as we talked about in class, whatever sign this one is, the bigger number will be the sign of the B. So I can come over here and I can say, all right, I've got x minus 2 and x plus 5 are my factors. So 0 is going to equal x minus 2, x plus 5. Now, does it matter that my 0 is on that side? No. I can also write this x minus 2, x plus 5 equals 0. These are the same. Okay? So now I've set the equation equal to 0. I've factored my left side. Now, if I know that two things multiplied together give me 0, That means either this has to equal 0, or this has to equal 0. And honestly, we do not care which. It is probably going to be both, because we actually need two solutions. And here is why. Because we know that when we have x squared, that looks like a parabola, and it will generally cross that x-axis twice, which is going to give us two solutions.
Technology developed by engineers from the future, but it's not.
So we're going to need two solutions down here. There are going to be times where we have no solutions, and there are going to be times where we have one solution. But right now, we're hoping for two solutions. So we say, okay, x minus 2 may equal 0. What happens when that happens? And what happens when x plus 5 equals 0? Well, you solve that, and to solve that, you'd say, okay, I'm going to add 2 to both sides and get x equals 2. Have negative 4 squared.
Or maybe a place to see spectacular.
So there's one of my solutions. Subtract 5 from both sides, and I'm going to get x equals negative 5. There's my other solution. So this graph right here is going to cross the x-axis at negative 5 and at positive 2. Those are your two solutions.
One and all to the Late Show. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert.